Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular meeting of the MCAG Governing Board, Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority, and the Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County, dated today, December 18, 2014. Would we all please rise and pledge to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Director Pedroso? Here. Director Walsh? Here. Director Davis? Here. Director Kelsey? Director O'Banion? Here. Director Price? Here. Director Antonetti? Director Oliveira? Here. Director Espinoza? Here. Director Vialta? And Chair Thurston. Oral communications. Persons wishing to address agenda items or comment on any item not on the agenda may do so at this time. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Please state your name and city or community of residence for the record. For items not on the agenda, no action will be taken at this time. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and/or placed on the next agenda.
My name is David Garcia. I'm from Merced. I'm a heavy equipment mechanic with Merced County Maintenance. Time constraints dictate that I be direct and frank with you. At the regular MCAG meeting of November 13th, some disturbing things were brought to you in this forum, so I'm going to comment to you in this forum. This is the tip of the iceberg of what I noticed. During the presentation by the transit director, he stated to you that the county maintenance does not provide him with a daily report of the maintenance status of each bus. Not true. This is a copy, 1 page of everything that the county maintenance yard has in their possession. What's being worked on, why it's in the shop, and what's been returned to transit. It's updated daily. He gets it. My boss starts, supervisor starts his shift at 5 a.m. The transit director also alluded that the existing maintenance schedule is ambiguous, stating that the buses are brought to the shop for maintenance and then set back into service without any work being done. That's true. But let me use Cinderella's story as an analogy to that. Cinderella must be in by midnight. If she comes home at 6 o'clock and decides she wants to take the pumpkin carriage back out for pizza, she can do that as long as she's back before midnight. Same thing applies to the buses. If there's time or mileage available and they can still be useful, yes, sometimes they are sent back into service without actually being worked on, as long as you're back before the deadline. And I saw that the transit director was asked by this panel if he had called Dana Hirschfelder specifically and spoken to him in the interim, and as he was directed to by this panel. He hemmed and hawed for a few moments, finally stating that no, he had not done as this panel had directed him to. What could possibly be his goals and motivation? To steer this panel in a certain direction of action? I don't know. So that's just something that really bothered me, and I thought I should bring it forth to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 4, oral report, Citizens Advisory Committee. Dan Karras.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dan Karras. I'm a representative of the Citizens Advisory Committee. On our last meeting, Matt Fell invited the committee to attend the Arbadella ribbon cutting ceremonies that was taking place on Friday, December 5th. Directions were provided for those who wanted to attend. Action items carried and recommended. Minutes of the November 7th, 2014 Citizen Advisory Committee meeting. Second, MCAG 2014-17 Title IV program. Regional housing needs allocation methodology. Transit operations and backup generator. Solar lights for the bus shelters, stop shelters. Reallocation of public transportation modernization improvements and service enhancement account funds for the mobile data terminals project. We received information items from the 2015 One Voice program, commute connection monthly reports, October 2014. We had announcements from Matt Fell informing the committee that the MCAG Governing Board approved the creation of a Regional Transportation Plan, RTP, and alternate planning strategy steering committee to provide primary guidance on the process of developing the RIP and APS. Staff will distribute the applications, and the MCAG Governing Board will review the applications and choose the committee members. Matt Fell informed the committee that the RTIF will be presented at the December Governing Board meeting, with staff seeking directions for the board on whether to begin the new RTIF study in the current fiscal year or the next. If this item is approved, then the RFP can be released in January. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Does any of the directors have any questions for Mr. Karras?
Pardon?
Oh, I was asking if any of the directors had any questions for you.
Oh.
I don't see any hands, so.
Do any of the directors have any questions?
I guess you did such a thorough job that, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Before we go any further, I'm remiss in introducing the newest member of MCAG, the newly elected and sworn-in mayor of Atwater, Jim Price. You could, he may or may not appreciate that. I don't know. We'll see how we do. Item 5, Caltrans report, and that does look like Ken Baxter.
Good afternoon. I've got one handout. Let me get this going around. I should have enough for all of you. I'd like to welcome the newest member, Mayor Price. Welcome. My name is Ken Baxter. I represent Caltrans District 10 out of Stockton. And a few items. I just want to say, first of all, the Arboleda ribbon cutting 2 weeks ago from tomorrow that Mayor Thurston and Barbie both spoke. Did a wonderful job as always. We had a huge turnout. We were back in the office talking about what a wonderful turnout, just a lot of people. And I've been bragging about that project in some other counties, which I shouldn't do. One was last night at the Stancog board, so I was able to get out okay. But, you know, I really applaud the partnership here in this county. That's wonderful, 8 miles of 6 lanes of freeway, new interchange. We got rid of those at grade crossings. Plainsburg is right around the corner. Sometime this spring or summer, we'll do the ribbon cutting for that. So it's wonderful news. I just wanted to share that. The Bradley overhead street, the lights, not the signals, those should be on today. I checked before I left the office. They weren't on, maybe today, later, tomorrow. We were ready to go. We had those metered in, just a little background, because I know there's some concern out there about those lights not being on. Apparently the city of Merced wanted those unmetered and to have it all collectively go into a system. So we had to work with the city and PG and others, so it just took some time. So that's a little history. That's about all I know on that. I can get more information if anybody has it. That handout that just went around, I just want to share with you. I don't think I've ever done this here with this board. If I have, way back, forgive me. But This is on our website, and the one that has the organizational chart, I just wanted to show you statewide, this is kind of us, our department. And we have Malcolm Daughtery at the very top. Comey Agisi, a lot of you know very well. He used to be the District 10 director. He's been one of our deputies up there. Recently, he became chief deputy. So he's responsible statewide for the daily operations of our department of about 19,000 employees. About 40% are the orange shirts out there working on the highways, and then many, many other types statewide. But if you look on the left side, those are all the 12 districts that we cover the entire state of California. Towards the bottom there, District 10, that's us. Dennis Agar is our District 10 director. If you go across on the top, those are the different major functions of our department up in Sacramento. And then what we do in the district somehow, some way connects to all of those. And so I just wanted to share that with you. And then if you flip it over, this is our district. Merced County is in District 10. We have 8 counties. We work with 29 cities on a daily basis, the Port of Stockton transit districts, 7 federally recognized Native American tribes, a whole lot of sovereignty type work with them, and many others in the public. So that's a little bit about District 10. We have about 1,300 centerline miles in our district, about 3,500 lane miles in our district, 23 highways in the district. Statewide, we have about 15,000 lane miles, just to kind of give you a little heads up on some of this stuff, a little bit over 50,000 lane miles. And we have 245 public airports that we inspect and work with to make sure they're safe daily. And we also have about 66 special use airports, 8 seaports, and there's others, military ports and things like that. We have 505 heliports in the state that we inspect and we permit and make sure they're safe for landing helicopters. 160 of those are the hospital heliports. And so those are very important for anyone that has a need. And we have about 197 business-related heliports. 40 in addition, we have 40 that are fire, 52 police, and then there's some other specialty. And then lastly, I just want to let you know that we have about 25,000, roughly, bridges in the state. About half of those are on state highways. The other half are on your streets and county roads and city streets. Through local assistance and through structures and headquarters, we work with the local agencies statewide to inspect. We have funding programs with the feds to replace, do seismic repair, things like that. So that's all I'm going to say. I just want to kind of give us a little, high-level view of what's going on in our department, and that it does relate directly to a lot of your staff in public works, especially, and also in planning. And I think that's all I want to say, except happy holidays to all of you. And so if you have any homework for me or questions, I'll do my diligence.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. I think he can hear you.
I can hear you. Right. Right. Yep. And you spoke. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I will. Thank you, Supervisor. And I apologize. You were one of the best and most eloquent speakers there. 3 of you tied. So don't share that outside this room, please. We had a lot of speakers.
A lot of us were there because we heard a rumor that Saeed was going to cook before we got there.
I heard a rumor to that effect, too, but I wasn't there. So.
Oh, okay. Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Baxter?
Thank you.
Thank you. And
you have my phone number.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Thanks. Next is a consent agenda. Item C, at the request of the director, has been removed for later consideration. This is an action item. It's a consent agenda. Minutes of the November 13, 2014 MCAG Governing Board meeting. MCAG 2014 to 2017 Title VI program and Merced County Association of Governments budget amendment. Is there any additions, corrections? Director Walsh.
Yes, this was a budget amendment that was approved by YART, I think at their November or December meeting. And so it has to reflect in our budget because it's part of our staffing plan.
Anything further? That Chair will entertain a motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item 7 is information discussion only. The minutes of the December 10, 2014 Technical Review Board meeting. Yes, it's removed. You didn't vote on that. That'd be a good idea, yes. Maybe all your questions will get answered when it's... And D is the Commute Connection Monthly Report of October 2014. Any information added to this or questions, comments? If not, we'll move on to number 8, which is an action item. Regional Transportation Impact Fee Update Approval. Budget transfer of $50,000 to LTF Planning Funding for Work Element 220 Transportation Expenditure Plan to Work Element 210 Regional Transportation Impact Fee Professional Services, and the release of a request for a proposal for a comprehensive update to the RTI fee study. Questions, comments? Director Walsh?
My only comment would be is I noticed that in there, one of our, I don't know what you call it, 15 various proposed scope of work, and it talked about convening a stakeholder committee to provide guidance. Is that something that this board would be appointing representation to, or is that something that we would be tasking the consultant who'd be doing this to pull together? That's just a question. I have a thought about it, but that's my question at this point.
Ms. Fell?
I would look to the board if you had an idea on that, which way you'd like to go with that.
I would just suggest as one member is that we have, that this really, once we have kind of a stakeholder membership, that this be something to the board so as to make sure that we have broad county-wide representation on this stakeholders group.
We can certainly do that,
and a consultant work and then bring it to the board for approval? Would that be?
They could do, absolutely. There's going to have to be advance work done and bring it to us, and then we could say, hey, oh, by the way, what about?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's do that. We can always add or probably not take people off, but who knows?
Okay, I'll make sure to add that specifically, that the stakeholder committee get approved by the board.
Very good.
Thanks.
I think that would make... Okay, there's a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Fell. Number 9 is the 2015 One Voice Program. Stacy Dabbs.
Good afternoon. Just a quick update on where we are on the status of putting our 2015 program together. I had mentioned at the last board meeting and we were able to successfully release a call for projects / priorities and policies on December 1st. So each of you should have received that, as many of your staff and all of the committees and as many stakeholders as we've been able to get that information out to. So again, that's a really simple process of seeking input from partners on what projects or policies should be included in the federal platform for the May 2015 trip to Washington, D.C. The deadline to submit those proposals will be January 16th. And shortly after that, that list will be compiled in a draft form, going through the committee process and ultimately coming back here in February as a draft platform for your review and input. And potentially, if you're inclined to adopt, then we would start developing the messages and the fact sheets and identifying speakers and whatnot. So there will be some action to be taken on this next month. And if there's any questions about the material or the proposal sheets that were sent out, or we did have some questions about if there was a limit on how many submissions could come from a jurisdiction or a partner, and there isn't any. The idea is that we'll collect everything that is being proposed, and we'll go through a prioritization process with a stakeholders group at the end of the month, and then that information would come here. So it's going to be a process of kind of taking everything that's proposed and then, narrowing it down into what the federal platform will be. Ultimately, your decision to approve it or modify it as needed.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Dapps by directors? Excuse me, I'm still fighting a cold. I apologize.
And just for everyone's edification, it's due when? When's the last day to turn that in?
January 16th. Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Thank you very much. Look forward to it. Item 10, Merced County Association of Governments audited financial statements for the year June 30, 2014. It is an action item. Christine, are you going to start, or we're going to go directly to someone from Price Page? We're going to do these one at a time, so you'll have to get up 2 more times. She talked about doing them all 3 at once, and she got me so confused I didn't know what to if that's all right.
Thank you. Yes, we do have Fausto
Hinojosa.
Yeah, he'll say it. He's one of the managing partners at Price Page and Company, and he's going to present the audit to you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Thurston, members of the board. My name is Fausto Hinojosa. I'm the managing partner at Price Page and Company. Our firm is in Clovis. It's our pleasure to be here today to share the results of the audit with you. Dave Dybus is one of our audit managers, and he was assigned to this audit along with a team of other auditors. And so I get to come up and share the good news with you today with respect to the audit of MCAG. As I understand it, you've been provided digital copies of the audit, and so I'm not sure if you have access to those now or not. My plan is not to go through any of the numbers in detail, but to share with you the audit process, if you will, and the audit scope, and certainly the opinion that we have issued. So on page 1 of the audited financial statements is a page that's on our letterhead, and that is the audit report. And so this is a standard audit report, and a couple of things that it does is it identifies management's responsibility, and it also defines what the auditor's responsibility is. And so I'd like to take a minute to describe that. Management's responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements. So the numbers obviously are management's numbers. Management also has another important duty, which is to design, implement, and monitor internal controls. So the auditors are not part of your internal control process. The auditors come in to tell you whether the financial statements are fairly presented. Management's responsibility is to design, again, implement, and monitor internal controls. Our job as auditors is to perform an audit in accordance with the auditing standards. You have actually 2 audits, if you will. You have an audit of the financial statements of the numbers, and you also have a federal compliance audit because you receive federal funding. So our job is to obtain evidence about the numbers, the amounts, and the disclosures in the financial statements. And we have 2 key responsibilities. We're looking for material errors, and we're looking for fraud. So our job as auditors is to identify whether there's any error or fraud. And I use the word any, but really it's not any. If there was, you couldn't hire us really to try to identify every single minor error. Our job is to identify any significant material error. That being said, when we perform our work, if we identify any error, then we'll address that with the person that we're working with, and if necessary, elevate that to a higher level of management. And if it was error or fraud at a high level of management, then we'd bring that to the board. So that's our auditor's responsibility. The opinion that we've issued is an unmodified or clean opinion. And our opinion says that the financial statements as presented are fairly stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So as a governmental agency, you all understand that the Governmental Accounting Standards Board issues the rules. They set the rules, and they say these are the rules that you must follow, and you should prepare financial statements in accordance with these rules. Our job as auditors is to determine whether you've done the accounting in accordance with those rules. If you have done that, then we issue a clean opinion, an unmodified opinion, and that is what MCAG has received, an unmodified opinion. I said that your audit also includes that there's two, a financial statement audit and a federal compliance audit. So we've issued a separate opinion on compliance. And so as a part of our compliance audit, the federal government provides a laundry list of compliance requirements. There are 14 types of compliance requirements, and within each of those sections, there are a whole lot of audit tests that the federal government requires us to do. And so we performed that compliance audit. We call that a single audit, a federal single audit. And I'm pleased to report that there were no findings, no compliance findings with respect to any of your major federal programs. So you have an unmodified opinion on your financial statements, and you have also an unmodified opinion on compliance. There's a page in the packet, in the audited financial statements, that is called the Summary of Auditors' Results. That's page 69. And on page 69 is a summary, basically, of what I've just shared with you. It summarizes the results of the audit. So, type of auditor's report issued, unmodified. It asks a question, were there any internal control findings? The answer to that question is no. Were there any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses? The answer to that question is no. Was there any non-compliance that's material to the financial statements? The answer to that question is no. Similarly, with the federal awards, ask those questions, and the answer to those questions is no. So MCAG finally qualifies as a low-risk auditee because of the fact that it has had no significant findings in the last couple of years. So I don't plan to go through the numbers, but wanted to just share with you the scope of the audit and the results. Wanted to express also our appreciation to your executive director, your chief financial officer, and all of the accounting staff that assisted us in the audit. One of the things that we assess and evaluate as we're conducting our audit is the level of interaction or the ease with which we can work with people, whether people are being, in our opinion, transparent with us, whether they're providing the documents that are necessary, whether anybody is being standoffish. Actually, one of the things that we do back at our office that we're required to do in an audit is to have what we call a fraud brainstorming meeting. So we actually sit at our office with our audit team, and we try to figure out at each position, how can this person commit a fraud? And if they wanted to do that, how would they do that? And then we devise tests to test to see whether any of that is happening. And that's how the audit should be conducted. The auditing standards require that we do that. And when we're talking to our team of auditors, we're also reminding them all of the time that they need to be professionally skeptical. Professional skepticism doesn't mean that they believe that somebody has done something wrong, but it means that if we ask a question and we're provided with an answer, we don't accept that at face value. You haven't hired us to be auditors simply to come in and ask questions. You've hired us to corroborate whether the information that is presented is fairly stated. So we feel good about the audit process, and again, just would like to express our appreciation to the MCAG management for facilitating the audit. Glad to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Any questions by any directors? Don't see any. Thank you, Mr. Hinojosa. It's a very complete report. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you a couple more times.
Yes.
Thank you. If there's no questions, this is an action item. Chair will entertain a motion. Who did it? Oh, Director O'Banion's made the motion. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Thank you. Number 11, approve a 3-year contract with Price Page and Company for the first year not to exceed $92,215 and authorize the executive director to sign a contract. Christina.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Every 3 years we send out an RFP, and this year we sent it out in October and allowed 4 weeks for the agencies or firms to respond to us. And we actually send it out to our list as well as post and publish it. And we only received one response, which was kind of surprising. So we actually called a couple of the agencies that requested it but didn't respond. And one of them said that they didn't have the staff to do it, and the other one said they couldn't meet our timeline. So we did follow up to find out why we didn't get additional responses. So we are recommending that we go with Price Page and Company.
Is this pretty much in line with what we have contracted with them before?
Yes, it's actually a couple thousand less than this current year, so.
Deflation. Well,
Yeah, I'm all for it.
any questions by the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, thank you. Congratulations on some more work. Next is the Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority, item 12, action item, minutes of November 13, 2014 Regional Waste Management Authority Board meeting. Are there any additions, corrections for these minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Number 13, oral report monthly update. Brooks Stayer. I always forget that T. Is he here? Oh, there he is.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Tonnage looks good. Again, I tell you this every time, but as long as we have Turlock, the tonnage will continue to look really good. Golden Byproducts, that's the company that we've been partnering with for disposal of tires and buying tire chips, which I'll talk about in a minute. They were shut down because they had too many tires on site, and so they just got re-inspected. I think this is their second or third inspection by Caltrans, by Cal Recycle, and so they're going to be allowed to reopen. And so that's good news because potentially a third of all the tires that come into the site have to be disposed of, and we would like to be their disposal site. The draft EIR, Environmental Impact Report, is completed. We're reviewing it now. It's 248 pages. So if any of you want to join in the reading with me, you're welcome. Otherwise, it looks fairly good, but there's a lot of things in it that the last time we updated this was probably 10 or 15 years ago. So we're finding actually some historic information that we need to update for the sites going forward. Turlock, I've emailed them a couple times in the last couple weeks and haven't heard anything back, but the trucks still continue to come in, so we're still making revenue from them. And I think what will happen is eventually they'll just sign an agreement with Stanislaus and, they won't be coming in. But until then, they'll probably keep coming like they have for the last year and a half. And Mariposa, communicated with them this week. We've given them all the information they need to look at hauling waste from Mariposa down to the valley somewhere. And so hopefully it will be us, but they haven't made any presentations to their board yet. So they haven't made a decision one way or another. But again, that would be something that would supplement the loss of Turlock when we lose them. And our recycling was last bid out. We just collect it and then send it to a recycler to process it and sell it. And so we hadn't bid that out in probably more than a dozen years. So we bid that out. We got 4 very competitive responses. They're very good. We're still reviewing them. But there's 2 in Fresno. There's 1 in Lodi and the same one we are dealing with now in the Bay Area. So essentially it looks like from reviewing all 4 of them that we will get a larger revenue share. In other words, they sell it, and right now they give us about half of it back. So it looks like we'll get even more back. And we currently pay over $90,000 a year to dispose of the residue. About 30% of the recyclables that are actually in the blue cans is actually either garbage or material that's contaminated, or it's not worth the cost to recycle it. So that ends up being about 30%. So we're spending money to dispose of it. And so we put in the contract again that they have to bring our own residue back to our own landfill. So all 4 of them agreed to that in their responses. So that'll mean that our own residual comes back. So we don't pay a high price to dispose of it. We pay a low price, and the revenue for disposal comes back to the authority instead of third party. So anyway, it looks very good at this point, but I don't want to divulge too many of the numbers because in case there's some loophole we've missed while we're reviewing the 4 of them. Yes, sir.
Would part of that discussion about the 30%, could they offer that they will pre-screen the stuff at our site so they're not hauling it one way and hauling it back, and then reduce that 30% by having staff or someone do it at our place?
Yeah, but they can, and I'll be willing to do that, but it will cost so much more to do that
And
sorting.
to run it up to the Bay Area and run it back?
It will cost more.
Wouldn't we have to have one of those conveyor belt things? Like
Yeah, they have. This has come up several times. I've been to these facilities before. I'll show you some video of what it takes to get the 70% out that we do get.
I think that'd be
really
very interesting.
Yes. So I'll put that together for January if everybody's okay with that.
Thank you. And anybody else have a question or comment?
We're just I try to think about jobs here. That's
I know, and it makes sense that you sort it here and then take it there to get recycled. But it's that economy of scale.
Well, once we see the machinery. Director Price.
Having been in the ugly business of recycling once myself, by the way, don't ever get into that business. Turlock Recycling was not a respondent to any of the proposals?
No, they did not.
Okay, because I know they have a rather large processing center there, and it would certainly save a lot of money in transportation, if anything, between here and there. And you were saying that the items that are processed, they're sold, and we're the recipients of anything that comes out of that.
Correct.
That's not a fixed cost. That's predicated on the market value at that time. Is that correct?
Correct.
So at this point, we're making money, but conceivably it could go downhill.
Yes, and that's a good point. That it's all based on the market. So in the RFP, they have to use it's an index that's based out of San Francisco, because anything that's basically from Fresno north is going to San Francisco to those markets, and if it's Bakersfield south, it's going to LA. So because of the hauling distance. So yeah, we're basing it on the market, and it's the market from San Francisco.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Anything further?
And then one more item that's a very positive thing. As you put garbage in the landfill after the waste has been in place 5 years, the federal government requires you to start collecting the methane gas that comes from the decomposition. And so we have reached that point in Cell 6A, which is at Highway 59 here in town. And so we've had several other these gas collection systems in the past that have been put in by vendors, and so we got a quote to put this one in, and it's 4 phases because you have to do it in steps, kind of like layers of the cake. And so the quote was $295,000, and we did the first layer for $12,000, and that included $5,000 to someone to help train us on how to do that because our employees had never done this before. And so going forward, we would not have to pay them again, so we can do all this work in-house. And so if we project out the total of the 4 phases, it'll cost $33,000 to do all the work, so it'll save $260,000. And I just want to show you what that looks like. And this references back to golden byproducts. The tire chips are just a regular passenger tire cut up into 4-inch squares. And so it's a very inert material that has a lot of space around it. So when you pack them in, there's room for air to move in there. So the gas that we collect out of the landfill needs a path of least resistance. So this provides a very good conduit for that. So we use the tire chips, which we're buying from a grant from Cal Recycle. So we move away the cover, and then we trench out the area where the pipe's going to go, and this is all surveyed by our own surveying staff. And then we put the tire chips in, and that's what you see the bucket of the truck, the loader there dumping the tire chips in. That's what it looks like once the tire chips are in the trench. And then we weld together 20-foot sections of pipe into, it's hundreds of feet long, and the pipe has perforations or holes in it every few feet. And so that's where the gas will actually go into that pipe. And then the pipe is going to be layer by layer in the landfill. And so we weld T's onto it so we can add to the system as we go. And that piece of equipment there on the left is the pipe welding machine. And we send our guys to a class to get certified in pipe welding. So we've got a crew now that's experienced and knows how to do this. We rented the machine, but we've done the cost analysis, and we'll be better off to buy one going forward. And so there it is, the pieces after we weld them together. And then you cover the pipe up with tire chips and put a layer of fabric over it so the dirt doesn't fill in the holes. And then you rebury it. And then once you're done, you never know it was there. We just connect the next lift or the next layer of waste on top of it. So again, it's something totally new. Our employees had never done it, but they were really eager to learn a new way of doing this. And this required no overtime, no extra pay. They just fit this into days when it wasn't raining, and this has all been done in the last month or so. So I thought the crew did a really good job of going beyond their normal push and pack garbage. And that's it for the oral presentation.
So the garbage underneath there, the gas, methane gas, is going to make its way to those chips and then the pipe?
Yes. Not all of it, but the majority of the gas.
How deep is the burial underneath the pipe?
There's about 40 feet. We do a layer of pipe about every 40 feet, and then the pipes are about every 50 feet horizontally across.
Is this the methane potentially going to UC Merced?
It could be. We want it to go there, yes. Again, we've heard positive things, had a few more emails from the gentleman that we're dealing with, but it's gonna take more effort. But yeah, that looks really promising.
Questions, comments?
Really right?
Yes, we're still waiting on the results of the grant for that, because that was the grant for that one, and we would do the digester machine there. So we still haven't heard back yet on that.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'd just like to say thank you to Brooks for the work that he's done. And there's been a lot accomplished in this last year, in case nobody really realizes it. There's a lot of work that has been done and a lot of cost-saving experiences that have been brought about by our director there in the Lodville. So thank you.
I'll say thank you also. The level of sophistication just to handle waste is amazing, really. Next item is 14, Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority audited financial statements for year ending June 13, 2014. I presume you won't have to tell us the entire methodology this time, but maybe more of the results.
That was so much fun, though. I saw everybody was really into that.
We did learn a lot, I will admit.
So we completed our audit of Solid Waste Authority, and page 1, again, on our letterhead describes our audit opinion. And if I can't speak of methodology, then I will speak of our opinion. It was an unmodified opinion, which, again, is a clean audit opinion. Financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. One thing that I would like to point out, so Solid Waste Authority, you govern that, but it is different, obviously, from MCAG in terms of funding. And it's a whole different type of operation, obviously. MCAG, I said, had a federal compliance audit. The Solid Waste Authority does not. So the Solid Waste Authority really is just a financial statement audit. And there is one. There are several significant numbers in the financial statements, but one that I'm required under the auditing standards to tell you about is the closure and post-closure care liability. That liability is an estimate, right? So the engineers and the people that are experts at that, they put together an estimate of what it's going to cost to once they stop accepting waste. There are ongoing costs, and so there needs to be a calculation. Our job as auditors is to audit that estimate, and so that can be challenging because we're not experts in that sort of thing. And so our job is to determine whether the inputs into that calculation are reasonable. And so we actually audit a couple of other solid waste operations, American Avenue in Fresno County and way up north in Lassen County as well. And so we have some ability to take a look at the calculation here and compare it to other calculations and to make sure that all of the right inputs are there. But unlike a number in the financial statements, for example, cash is the money that's sitting at the bank. That's hard. We can confirm that. We have a bank reconciliation. this liability, again, is an estimate. And so there are changes over the years, and those changes, when there's a change in that estimate, that change runs through the income statement. So from time to time, you can have some significant changes in your income statement because of the change in that liability. So I just wanted to point that out to you. But again, the staff that we worked with were all transparent, forthright, provided all the documentation that we needed in a timely fashion. And so we're pleased to report that an unmodified opinion was issued for the Solid Waste Authority.
Thank you. Any questions on this? Mayor Balta?
So there are sufficient funds available for closure of the cells?
That's a good question. So if we take a look at the financial statements, page 12 shows cash and investments restricted of $13.6 million, but probably your executive director or somebody would be in a better position to tell you exactly how much of that is available for the closure, post-closure liability. The liability is at $2.7 million. You have cash in your operating and LAIF account at $9.4 million. So it appears that you're in a pretty strong position. That liability is not excessive. Again, we audit a couple of other solid waste authorities, and that liability typically is much larger than the assets that they have available, but you don't appear to be in that position.
So I'll tell you, the reason I ask is because money was transferred out years ago because some of the cells were overfunded, and then money was transferred to another account. And so the question I asked at the time is that will that ever affect the rates, and we will be short? And I think Brooks answered that question at one time that we were okay, because I just didn't want to make sure. I wanted to make sure that the money we transferred out then didn't come back to haunt us, and we had to raise rates because that money was placed someplace else.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great question. And in Fresno County, American Avenue, their landfill, at one point they had excess funds, and so they had to pay that back out because as an enterprise fund, this is accounted for as an enterprise fund, which means you can't accumulate excesses, right? Because you should only theoretically be charging the cost of operating the facility. But again, that estimate for that liability is a challenging number to come up with. But it looks like your asset base at this point is sufficient. But I will give this part to the expert.
Thank you. The way the state of California works is a little bit different. Normally, you just have to have the money to close the last landfill cell you're in. So, for example, right now, Highway 59 is in 6A. We would continue to work our way east to 6F. By the time we get to F, we'll have closed A, B, C, and probably D, because the state would require us and the federal government would require us to close them. They can't just sit there not closed. So we have to spend that money out of our operating cash. We can't spend those reserves we set aside. So what happened a few years ago was this solid waste group, prior to my time, they realized we're putting away closure money for cells A, B, C, D, and F, but that 30 years from now, A will be closed, and we won't need that money. We only need money for F. So you're putting away this extra money. I don't know if that made sense, if I explained that well. So there was no reason to continue to accrue it at that rate. Plus, we were cash poor. So the money was transferred, all the money was transferred over to us as a new name as the authority. So we did get all the money, but some of the closure money was shifted over to capital projects and not left in closure. But we got all the cash, and I will say that we do need to put away more. I would recommend that we do need to put away more cash. But that's the plan that I've laid out before, is that once we stop paying the $2.6 million a year on the bond, then some of that $2.6 million needs to go into reserves and let us catch up on that. But since we don't need that money for decades, I think we can afford to postpone that.
Okay, and that does not associate with higher rates for the ratepayers because we made the transfer?
No, there's no correlation to that.
Okay. Right.
Rates may go up, but that's going to be due to just loss of tonnage and costs going up. It wouldn't be to the closure.
And it wouldn't be to the transfer?
No. and we did get all that money.
I know we got it. I mean, it's in a different pot. So
Yes, it's in a different pot.
All right, okay.
It's in a different pot.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I did particularly like your description of sitting in your office trying to figure out how fraud is committed. That must be a fascinating evening.
I've got a book in the backseat of my car, the first one written, How to Detect and Prevent Business Fraud. So I'm a CPA, but I'm also a certified fraud examiner, and it's something that can be fun.
It sounds like it. Any other questions on this issue? Thank you. We'll see you one more time.
Thank you.
Number 14 is an action item. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Next is the Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County, number 15. It's an action item consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the November 13, 2014 Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County meeting, transit operations backup generator, solar lights for bus stop shelters. Does anyone have any revisions, additions, deletions to these minutes? You want a discussion of any of those? If not, I'll make entertain a motion for approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 16, oral report, transit monthly update. Rich Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a presentation because I have pictures to share. So last month, actually the first part of this month, we partnered with the Human Services Agency and the Sheriff's Department to do their toy drive, and we added buses to their locations to do a Stuff the Bus campaign to allow people to bring toys to put in the bus for kids in Merced County. We were able to collect 572 toys over 2 days and about $1,600 in cash donations, so that was pretty good. We've talked about maybe expanding that next year, even to the west side, and parking a bus on that side, see if we can get some more donations. We also participated in the City of Livingston's Court of Trees. We sponsored a tree, and we decorated the tree with buses. And that survived the storm, I hear. So, and then we were also in several holiday parades. We decorated a bus, and we're in the parades. We were in Dos Palos, Atwater, Livingston, and Merced. We were unable to get to Los Banos and Gustine this year. It's the first time we've really done this, so next year we'll be better prepared, and we'll make sure we can get in we'll get drivers to volunteer to be in all the parades. So, and it was a lot of fun. We got a lot of positive reaction from folks. It's nice to be cheered as we're going down the street there. So we had the buses decorated. We even had people in the buses waving to folks, a lot of staff and their families. This is the one from Merced. So you have a shot in the daytime. So anyway, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, those are pictures of my Legos, actually. So, yeah. Okay, so then now to the real stuff. What we've been working on over the past, it's probably been 4 or 5 months, we've been working on trying to get these route revisions done. We've gotten a lot of feedback over the past almost a year on routes, plus we did a ridership survey. We got 400 plus ridership surveys, both online and in person. We actually rode buses and had people fill them out. We were just recently at the Transpo all day in Merced. We were at the Atwater Transpo all day, and we actually rode some routes with folks, and at the Los Banos Community Center, riding routes with folks to try to get these new routes in place February 2nd. So next month, we'll be out and about, riding buses, handing out brochures, doing a major outreach push to let people know what the schedules and routes are. So here's some of the changes that we've made. We actually removed a bus from Atwater. We had 2 buses on the A2, so we removed 1 bus and rescheduled it a little bit. We restructured a couple of the routes to go to service the Target area and the Castle area. I think that'll benefit the residents a little bit better there. City of Dos Palos will have a DP route, basically, which it has now, but what it's going to do is have smaller buses, so the big buses won't go through Dos Palos anymore. But what it will do is it will connect at the Dos Palos Y with the LB commuter. So it'll speed up that distance from Los Banos to Merced every time. We have 2 routes like that during the day, but every route's going to be like that moving forward. So we'll still be able to make the connections, but it'll be a lot faster. The City of Gustine, we fixed some of the schedules because we're finding some delays in some of the drive times. And we're going to remove 2 of the routes where there's no ridership. And we're going to try a new route from Los Banos to Turlock through Hilmar. We have had some requests from some folks in Hilmar wanting some service. And when we did surveys last year in Los Banos, folks wanted to be able to get to Turlock. So we had that route once before with low ridership, but we're going to try it again and try to promote it and see if we can't get people to ride it. For Livingston, there's a new, I think, Rancho San Miguel going in February, so the timing is right. So we're going to add a stop there. The City of Los Banos, we've restructured the routes to be a little more efficient there as well. And again, talking about the Los Banos to Merced Express route, it'll express every time, and we're actually able to get one more route during the day and just have it connect to the Dos Palos Y. And Planada, we've actually expanded that route a little bit to connect to the migrant labor housing. There's 2 areas up north on Plainsburg, so we're going to connect to there. And we've moved we have a bit of a detour onto Bear Creek off of Highway 140 because we have to turn at Kibbe. Long story short, we're going to move that to Olive, and we expect no real delays there to do that. And the City of Merced. We've added more connections in the north. So we have several connections at Target, the college, and the hospital, so it makes it easier for folks to get back and forth across the north side of town, plus multiple options to get to these major destinations. We've fixed some of the timing of it, and we've also added essentially 3 buses to Merced to get the frequencies a little bit better in Merced. So that's essentially the report. So you have any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Green? Director Walsh.
In the course of those discussions about routes, are we looking at buying smaller buses in general? Because what I hear from constituents is buses are half full. And their thoughts are, not that they're opposed to the idea that the bus ought to go by, it's just that if we got them smaller, they wouldn't be half full. They might be 3/4 of the way full. And so are we having that kind of discussion? Because it seems like when I look at things that we're buying big buses. And so it's a question. People ask, why are you buying big buses when you're running them half empty? Frankly, when you're running them totally empty. And so I'm in need of an answer about how come we continue to buy big buses when we don't seem to fill them.
Well, it's not a simple question, or it's not a simple answer.
I assumed so.
The larger transit coaches are a lot more sturdy. They're a lot more built for the constant mileage. So it's actually a little more expensive to run the small buses the same as running the large buses, because your cost for the driver, your cost for the equipment, it's all the same. The other side of that is we can replace the smaller buses sooner at about half the time, so the bus is newer, longer. We get a second bus. So there's that. As far as the ridership on the bus, we do try to keep smaller buses in the city of Los Banos and a lot in the city of Atwater, what we have available. We can't really swap out the fixed route for the paratransit buses because they're set up differently. They have different equipment on them. But we do have some smaller cutaways, the smaller buses running in Los Banos and Atwater for that reason. But a lot of our commuter routes are the bigger buses. A lot of the Merced routes are the bigger buses. Sometimes they're packed and sometimes they're empty.
my constituents aren't calling me from Los Banos and Dos Palos. They're calling me from Merced. So, and that's when they see these buses that are going by that their comment are empty or 2 or 3 people on them. And so their thoughts are,
Well, instead of watching them, they should get on them.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
just a thought.
Director Pedroza.
what's the, as far as a route, aren't we discouraged from our buses to go from into residential areas? Because I got a comment from a constituent of Mr. Walsh's not too long ago, come up to me and said that over in Devonwood Court behind, and there's all kinds of traffic there, and our buses are going around there in a residential area. And I thought we were supposed to stay out of the residential areas. Now, I've heard up to 75 trips a day in a residential area with our buses are going through there. Now, this is, and I don't argue with my constituents because I'm there for our constituents. What's the response?
I'm very familiar with that specific incident.
There hasn't been a response back to the man.
I've spoke with that individual twice.
Not to his satisfaction or to mine.
Well, the issue there at that specific area, and we did, when we redesigned the routes, we did pull them out of a lot of the subdivision single-family areas and tried to focus more on the higher density areas. The old routes used to go through neighborhoods, and we got rid of that. This particular case, in order for us to serve the Walmart area, Walmart Food Max area, which is where those buses are going, and not go on Austin, I think it's Austin, between Hobby Lobby and Barnes & Nobles, that's the only way to go through there. To go by Walmart and to get out and back and forth to hit both bus stops on both sides. Well, I've talked with the city of Merced about this. We removed the bus stops on Austin specifically because when the buses turn in there, they block traffic because there's a median. What I'd like to do moving forward is, and we hope to do this in the next 6 months to a year, is to get bus pullouts on Olive Avenue to serve that area. And by doing that, we'll reduce the need to go through there so many times to turn around. You know, the buses can't get in there and get out without going, it's basically a loop. So there's a long-term solution for that, but short-term, to serve that high frequency area, I've looked at it and looked at it and looked at it. I don't know how to get the buses in and out of there any other way, safely.
But we're not supposed to high traffic in residential areas?
I think that's a choice. I don't think there's a.
I'm thinking about the people that live there and the buses that come by. I would think that would be a priority so we could. That would probably be one of the first things that I would look into, so it doesn't upset the neighborhood, because it's not only this one person that I've talked to, but other ones, that the traffic that comes through there numerous times, how upset that they get. That's what I'm saying, and that's what I'm looking out for. Whether it's in my district or my colleague's district, I mean, I know he's going to hear the same concerns that I'm hearing. But my point is, I mean, can't we adjust that to where the traffic, because I think that there's nothing against the bus. That's first and foremost. What they're upset about is the traffic that comes by that same area time after time after time. And that's what the concern is. And I know you've heard it, but that's what I'm saying. There's got to be a way that we can adjust that.
Where do we get the money to construct the pullouts on Olive to stop doing that?
We have that in this year's budget, and we will be bringing to you a proposal for that as soon as we can get somebody under contract. The Walmart stop is one of the first stops on my priority list. Is fixing that Walmart area. I fully understand that that's a problem area.
Well,
I just don't know of a fix right now.
Walmart is here,
Mhm.
and you're going from Walmart around in the residential area. Am I right or am I wrong?
That's correct. We're not able to stop. We're not allowed to stop on Olive Avenue, so we have to turn to across from Best
There's no way
Buy.
there could be a bus stop right there in that circle off of Walmart in that area where Godchalks is and all that. There couldn't be a bus stop in that area.
Yeah, but then I don't know how to get out.
I'm asking the question.
That's the question.
I'm just saying, you're going through a residential area, and these people are getting frustrated because of the traffic that goes through there. That's all I'm saying.
And I'd be happy to talk to you more about this, and we can sit down with a map and try to figure out another solution. I've tried and tried, and I can't come up with anything. So
That sounds like in 2015 that'll be cured.
I'm hoping in less than a year.
With two pullouts on Olive each end. So.
Yeah, even up the.
Right.
I know what you're saying.
Then they don't have to go
Right.
do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, let's keep that on the front burner.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else for Mr. Green? Mr. Davis?
Yes, I know you've presented me the information and the routing and everything a few months ago through the Franklin Beechwood area.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to know if there was any future plans to revisit the schedules that go through there, especially running a route or a smaller bus from that area back into the certain places throughout Merced. And if there was anything in looking at increasing the ridership and the buses on the smaller buses later on.
Yeah, there's two routes that go through there, the L route and the W route, and usually those are some of the coaches, the larger buses, because they're basically commuter routes going from Winton to Merced. And we are adjusting the schedules, but I don't know that we're adding any new buses to them for frequency. But what we're trying to do is adjust those schedules so that they make better connections with other routes.
And I guess what my suggestion would be is that maybe we could improve the ridership on that route if it was a shorter, you didn't have to go from all the way to, in other words, if you were catching a bus and you had to go to Atwater, then back to Merced, and you're trying to get to Merced, was my concern on that.
It goes back and forth, so you can catch it going to Merced or going to Atwater.
Right. And I would just wonder, since we're buying some of these extra buses, if there's a possibility to look at the future that we take a smaller bus and run just a bus between Franklin Beechwood area, maybe once or twice a day into the Merced area. In other words, where it would be beneficial to the residents of the Franklin Beechwood area to be able to shop, whatever. I mean, just asking the possibility to take a look at that and readdress that in the future. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything further? Director Villalta.
Rich, if you could just do me a favor and talk to Steve Gomes at some point in time. I know that the county is expanding the programs for students, namely in the STEM school, which is kind of a high school that expands classes out to different parts of the county kids. And I don't know, one of the questions I keep asking is how we're going to transport those students to Merced, where the school will be located in the future. And just kind of talk to him and just get some ideas, because I think transportation would be an issue. If the school district can't provide it, then how could the Merced County pay for ridership for the students to ride the bus to get to these certain classes in Merced? And then at certain times of the year, they have programs that are located in Merced through the county foundation, and to see if we could transport those students and to find out what kind of the budget would be to do that on a daily basis during the summer for 3 or 4 weeks at a time, maybe.
Okay, I'll call him.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything further for Mr. Green? Seeing none, thank you very much. And whoever designed the eyes and mouth on the bus, that's really cool.
That's what I do on my weekends.
Item 17, I guess you're still on the hook up there. Action item, relocation of public transportation modernization, improvement, and service enhancement account funds for mobile data terminal projects. Adopting a resolution number 2014-12-18-02 approving the purchase of mobile data terminals and Wi-Fi for the transit fleet. To purchase equipment and installation from Synchromatics. I presume that's the name of a company.
Mm-hmm. Synchromatics is the company that we purchased the automatic vehicle locator units that will allow us to have GPS units in the buses so that we can use the bus live, and it tells us where the buses are in real time. When we added that piece of equipment, they have their own mobile data terminal. So we essentially, on all the fixed route buses, have 2 mobile data terminals, one for Synchromatics specifically, and then one for the fare box. So as you can see here, they're kind of crammed in there for space. What I'm proposing here is we had a PTMICA grant for buses, for fixed route buses, and we've done that. We've spent that. There's a remaining balance of $297,000 on there. We have been working with the state to find out if can we reallocate this to a new project. We can. It requires a board resolution. And what we'd like to do is replace the MDTs that we bought about 3.5 years ago, with the upgraded model, which will basically upgrade the cell technology inside, so it'll give us a better signal. We won't drop calls. They won't, be disconnected, and the bus says it'll be here there instead of 20 minutes, an hour and 20 minutes. We looked at the price for that. We could get units on all 40 fixed route buses, and in addition, we could get Wi-Fi routers on those fixed route buses and 23 of the paratransit buses for the $297,000. We'd still need probably about 2 more Wi-Fi routers, but we could probably come up with the money to finish off that project.
Does this mean the riders have Wi-Fi capability? The riders, passengers?
Oh, yeah, for their phones.
Yeah.
They'd be able to ride the commuter routes on their phone without...
iPad or laptop.
Mm-hmm. And the Cat Trax has it on their buses, has Wi-Fi.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Green?
They can do that now, but some of them do lose signal in some of the dead areas of the county because of the old connections, the old cell connections. But the newer ones are much more improved for maintaining the connection.
Nothing's better than Uber. Questions for Mr. Green? We have a motion to approve. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Number 18, draft authorization of fiscal year 14-15 public transportation modernization improvement and service enhancement account funds for the replacement of 6 transit coaches, purchase of 6 replacement buses, modernization, and so forth. Do you want to talk about this too?
If I may?
Sure.
I just want to make sure, because I know this can be very complicated, because we talked about reducing the fleet, and my plan is still to do that. But we also have to look ahead to make sure that when we apply for this money that it's there in the future. So what I've tried to put together here is a snapshot of our bus replacement schedule. There's a couple of things going on. I'm actually talking with the city of Turlock right now. They have the exact same 2009 CNG buses that we have, the Orions, which Orion is currently out of business. They're looking to expand their fleet. So I'm talking to them, I'm talking with the FTA to find out if there's a way for us to transfer that liability to them. And once I figure if we can do that, then I'll bring it to the board to see if we can do that. But what that would mean in my plan looking forward is that would be 4 less transit coaches on the books. So I'm trying to cut down to 20 buses. I'm trying to lose 20 buses from the fleet. There's 4. We're going to place an order for, and we have the funding for, actually we have funding for all of these. Instead of 16 paratransit buses, we're going to order 8. Instead of the 6 buses, we're going to order 4. We're still going to get the 6 coaches in 2016, and then instead of 4, we're going to order 1 towards a month later. So we're going to probably make an order for 7 and replace 10 if that makes sense. So what we're looking at is in 2018, replacing the the 2006 CNG buses that are due for replacement in 2018. So we'd replace 9 with 6, so we'd lose 3. So in 2 years, we'll cut down our fleet 20 buses. And all these will be new. So we're going to have a lot of new buses and reduce our fleet so we have our spare ratio cut down closer to what we're supposed to have. So that's the plan moving forward. We need to allocate for this now. If things change or if we find a way to maybe do something different with these buses, we can always change the project later if we need to. But the problem is, in order to get this 1415 money, we have to go for it right now.
Questions for Mr. Green on this issue? Director Walsh.
Appreciate the presentation. I will share with you, it still causes me consternation because part of the reduction you're suggesting really requires FTA to approve. And we don't have FTA approval yet. You talked about City of Turlock and can you transfer, and so we don't have that kind of approval, but we're still going to acquire, and you using on this proposal 6, but if I remember reading the document, we just acquired 5. So that's really 11 more buses.
That's already included in our total.
Okay. Well, I mean, new buses. I mean, and so it just seems to me that I'm a simple kind of guy. If we're going to get to 20 less, buying 11 new, when you haven't gotten rid of 19 of the others, or 20, I don't get it. I mean, I'm sorry. I just, and so it makes me apprehensive about the process.
I've tried to lay out, based on the funding that we already have available, how to replace these buses by replacing fewer than we retire, based on the money that we already have allocated. And it's going to take us 2 years to get there, to get completely to 20 less buses. But we would be down 12 for July of next year. So that's the first big chunk. So we are making progress here.
Mr. Chairperson, the alternative is this $2.6 million. It's PTMI SEA money. It's bond money. This money is a one-time only funding source. It's going to go away. So if we do not identify how we want to spend it via resolution, then we tell the state no, thank you, and the $2.6 million is not allocated to this area for capital improvements. The state has said that if you submit something now, you can change the project in the next couple of months or in the spring or so. If we find something different that's more beneficial to use the funds, we can change it to not do the buses. So that would be a choice of this board if you wanted us to bring it back. But my recommendation is that we go forward with this resolution and bring it back in 3 months if we have other things that we can use the $2.6 million for.
So we could use it for capital, pardon me, Mr. Chair, I have a question. So we could use it for capital improvements, and shoot, I just heard here we were talking about curb cuts. And so, and we have enough money in next year's budget to do things. So frankly, I don't know how much, $2.6 million? Boy, that sure seems to be a whole lot of curb cuts we could be getting done in 1 year, and I'll bet you'd be able to find a contractor who'd be interested in $2.6 million worth of work. So if the issue is that we need to approve this, I guess I will share with you, if the issue is that we need to approve this so as to say we want to spend the money, that's one thing. I will share with you, so be straight up, my vote is not to buy 6 buses. If it's to tie up the money, okay, but if it's to buy 6 buses, I still don't understand exactly why acquiring new ones gets us 20 buses later. It seems like to me you start phasing out the fleet, and then when you get down to the number, you will start ordering the buses you need. But that's I'm just
what if Turlock our FTA approves the transfer of 4 buses to Turlock, we get rid of 4 right off the bat.
And we're 20 over the number. Remember, that's the number we're over.
Well, personally, I'm not going to second guess all this stuff.
No, I'm just trying to understand it. I'm sorry.
But I think for this resolution, it's to get that money committed. And we can talk about exactly what to do with it in the next couple of months. Yeah. Yes.
The understanding right now is that we're going to take an action or consider an action to determine to notify them that we are interested in the money, and we will come back with a proposal for the use of that money.
The resolution does identify the 6 buses because that was in our long-range plan that we adopted years ago. That was, and what part of our dilemma is our prices have been coming in under budget. So we proposed, like your last item, we were $300,000 under budget. So we had to find something else to do with the money. So that's been happening to us all along with this money. So that's a good problem to have. So we've been able to buy more buses with the money that was allocated in the past. But our original plan was this bus replacement plan that we adopted years ago, and this is consistent with that plan. But we talked with the state, and they said, okay, adopt this resolution, obligate the money, then come back within a few months. If you need to change your project, you can. That's what we've been told.
Okay. Yes.
And I would just comment, years ago, no one advised me sitting on this board that we had 20 buses that we were over our limit. So I'm not so sure I would have adopted that long-range plan if I'd have known then that we had 20 buses than we need. So I'm sorry, Margie, tying me back to a plan we adopted years ago when I didn't have that information. I didn't have that information.
I think that the overage is more or less a recent situation with the FTA. At least I got the impression that the number of buses is more of a current issue than it was 2 years ago.
I think it was in the 2011 triennial review. Just trying to understand. And we have, it's a little complicated because we had a separate paratransit fleet and a separate fixed route fleet, and they were both had too many spares in them. And it's been a compounding issue. We've applied for a lot of grant money to replace buses, and we have received a lot of grant money to replace buses. So sometimes you go out for these grants and hoping to get them, and then when you get a lot of them, then you're in this position that we're in kind of now. But this is why I put together this as a plan. I know it's a phased-in plan. We could retire 20 buses. We could retire 16 buses tomorrow. We could do that. But that will affect our day-to-day operations. We need to fix some of the issues with the day-to-day operations so that we can phase them out and still have enough buses to operate. That's why I've proposed it this way.
Anything further for Mr. Green? Yes, sir.
So my understanding is this money can be utilized for other capital improvements. Is that what you said, Marge? So is that going to be brought back to the directors at your next or within the meeting or so to where those options, what those options are?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Anything else? Chair will entertain a motion for approval. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Number 19, Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County audited financial statements for year ending June 20. I can't talk anymore. We'll have somebody else give us a brief rundown here. Mr. Hinojosa.
Thank you, Chair. So, as I've already shared with respect to the other entities, our process and procedure for auditing, I will point out here, page 1 again, is our audit opinion. The Transit Authority has obtained a clean, unmodified audit opinion, which is on page 1. Similar to MCAG, though, you have both a financial statement audit and also a federal compliance audit. The Transit Authority received, I think let me get to that page 35, shows the federal awards expended, and so that number was $3.5 million in the year ended June 30, 2014. So that's federal money that came in that required that we perform compliance tests, as I've described earlier for the other entities. And so there were no findings, no compliance findings with any of the federal grants. No problems, no control deficiencies, no material weaknesses in internal control. When I did the first presentation, I talked a little bit about management's responsibility for internal control. Our responsibility, though, with respect to internal control is to walk through that process to obtain a good understanding of how the controls work. So, for example, for money coming in, we want to know from the point it comes in to the time it makes it to the bank and to the time it gets reported in the accounting records, we want to make sure that it all properly is controlled through that process. So it's management's job to implement that system. But as we walk through that process, and we do walk through all of the important internal control processes, if we see something that doesn't make sense, then we would report that to the management, and then we, depending on the nature of the deficiency, we may have to report that to you as well. And so based on those controls, depending on those controls is the amount of testing that we may need to do. I didn't share earlier that we perform a risk assessment. And so for various account balances, we determine what are the risks. I said earlier about risks of fraud and error. So we're trying to assess, is this an account balance that has a high risk? If it has a high risk, then we're going to perform more procedures. If it has a low risk, we're going to perform less procedures. So, for example, when you purchase buses, as happened during this fiscal year, we want to trace those purchases back to the actual invoices, et cetera. But certain types of assets have less risk. Cash is something that certainly can be stolen. So when we're looking at cash, we're performing a lot more tests. When we're looking at disbursements, as an example, we're trying to determine if somebody submitted a phony invoice, could that get through the system? And so, again, we walk through that process. We want to make sure that there are authorizations and approvals. We want to make sure that the person that's reconciling the bank statement is not the person that's signing the checks, et cetera. And so those are the types of tests that we're doing. Just wanted to share that with you. But an unmodified, clean opinion on the financial statements of the authority, and an unmodified opinion on compliance with the federal grants.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Hinojosa on this one? Thank you.
Thank you.
It's nice to have people come up and give us good news once in a while. Board, Chair will entertain a motion for approval of item 19.
Motion to approve.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Number 20, a request of Director Walsh, rescind or amend something previously adopted, and update a 5-year contract for transit operations, maintenance, and fueling services. Are we going to give an update or talk about this other part first?
I can just frankly do a quick update on how we got to here. And so then last time we were together, we voted to competitively procure some services. And what I heard, not saying how it was presented, but what I heard was we really had no options but to go out and competitively procure it. There really were no other options. In the ensuing period of time, I got some information that raised questions about that there might be other options available. That FTA regulations might have on the issue about competition. If you're in some kind of partnership with a group, or if potential governmental entity, I mean, there were just those kind of questions. And so I didn't have the answers to that, and so I shared that information with Margie and Rich, so they got a sense of what were the questions raised to me and how we could answer it. In the ensuing period of time, we got a memo from our attorney regarding the issues, and frankly, I'm not going to debate the attorney is telling us we need to go be competitive, procure it. They can't find any of the flexibility that was suggested might exist in terms of the FTA, and so I'm no attorney, and I'm not going to frankly debate with our attorney on it. But that was the reason I asked for it to be brought back, because I had not heard, and and candidly, Rich and them might have presented it. I just didn't pick up on the fact is that there might be other options. I was just hearing that we have to go out and competitively procure it, and so I'm not here to debate with our attorney the recommendations from them. So
you agree with their conclusion of their memo?
I don't have any reason not to.
Okay. Well, the easiest way to do this is just, since you requested it, you could just withdraw it on your own motion. Can't he?
Yes, actually, procedurally, Director Walsh would have, because he is the one who noticed this item for the agenda essentially by emailing Margie and Rich, he would have to make a motion to rescind or amend that which was previously adopted, and it sounds like he is not going to do that. So the previous motion stands.
Okay. Thank you. Executive Director's report.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I would like to thank Lynn Davis for his service to this board for his duration of his elected office. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for your diligence and your great questions and making sure we keep everything on track. I really appreciate that. Thank you. That's all I have to report. I want to say happy holidays. I will be off for the next 2 weeks, so Christina Smith will be the executive director in my absence. Thank you.
Director Davis, most of those cookies are yours, but not all of them. Please feel free to partake on your way out. Thank you very much. Director's report, starting with Director Villalta. I would start on my right. Any comments?
And we know why.
I just want to thank the MCAG board for approving the item on the RTIF study. I think it has now made my job a lot easier with our council, and I'm hoping for great results, great findings, and we can come to an agreement, and Spanish will then be able to firsthand what the outcome will be after a comprehensive study. And I'm hoping it doesn't exceed the $50,000 limit set by the board. But I am just very, very pleased that this is going to be taken care of, and I think our council is also. So with that, everyone have a happy holidays. I'll just say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's anyway. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Pedroza.
I too want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and I also want to again send out to Lynn. I enjoyed the 4 years that we worked together, and we appreciate you on this MCAG board. And I know the questions that you asked were from the heart and were for the best for Merced County. So I appreciate that, Lynn. I wish you all in your endeavors, and I know you're going to be around still. So God bless you and your family. Thank you.
Director Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things that I'm periodically sending out Air District information on programs, incentives. If you want those copies, if you're not getting those and would like it, if you'll just let me know, and I'll frankly add you to the distribution. Next year, there will be some additional incentive dollars coming out for municipalities to look at air quality kind of things, and so I would encourage you to keep your eyes and ears open as that comes available. Also would offer to you, the county, as you are aware, have been discussing groundwater ordinances and sustainability plans. And so at some point would be more than willing to arrange for a discussion with whomever you guys might want to designate in terms of that processes and where we are now. And just recently had a great presentation on ACE train and the San Joaquin Valley Rail options, and it was very informative, and so look forward to those discussions in the future. And I too will say thank you very much, Mr. Davis, for your service to our community and our county and to the MCAG. We look forward to seeing you in other steads in our interactions. And I would wish all of you and staff to very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you. We want ACE to come to Merced. I think Margie's arranged for Dan Levitt to address the MCAG board
We met with him yesterday.
next month. Yeah, for all the rest of us. That, all we need is a little money, and they can get it here earlier.
You got it, Stan.
Director Oliveira.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank Lynn for his service for the last 4 years. It's been nice working with you. Best of luck in the future. And as far as Destine, our city manager is retiring. He's got about 3 days left. And he's going off into the wild blue. And we just have an interim there just ready to step into it. Our city manager, Sean Scully, is excited and ready to go. So we're going to move on seamlessly, I hope. And with that, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Thank you. Director Espinoza.
Thank you. I just want to thank Mr. Davis again for his contribution to Merced County and his service. And Livingston should be contributing now to the RTIF as of last month. So I'd like to report that. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I wish to offer my thanks also for the 4 years. And it took a while, but I think Caltrans finally got that rut fixed that used to catch your Corvette coming into town. So I presume they have. Now you can buy a new one, so it doesn't, hurt your car. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everyone. Happy holidays. And I think 2015 is going to be a lot more prosperous.
Thanks, Lynn. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Proceed.
I, too, would like to lend my thanks to Supervisor Davis for District 3 representation over the past 4 years. It was your community service has not gone unnoticed. And I, too, want to thank the board here for welcoming me aboard here. It's very informative, and I look forward to the future and all the things that this board is going to be assigned to. And to all the folks here in attendance today and to the board members, I too, Merry Christmas and a very happy and prosperous New Year.
Speech.
I didn't know my time would ever come. Oh, anyway. I do have to. It has been we just don't want to smack Jerry and get his attention. There you go. Not really, but it has been an interesting 4 years. It's even been fantastic at some times. And, we still have, I still have in the back of my brain nightmares over a shredder conversations. But anyway, that's another story. But no, this was just a shredder for green waste. But anyway, I really started backwards in this position because I started out attending these meetings on this side of the dais. Normally, it's over on the other side. So it's going to be interesting when I sit on the other side and knowing what takes place on this side. So that will give me a heads up, I think. But it really has. It's been a good 4 years. I'm truly... I was truly amazed at what this board of directors dealt with. And I knew it after the June election 4 years ago, but I had no idea until then what this board of directors encompassed. And if anything I would like to see happen, I would like to see more participation from the public, because this organization does have a voice in what happens throughout their communities out there. And I would love to see more public input, more people sitting out there and be involved in this. Other than that, everyone, I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I'll still be in my office up until the 3rd of January. So if you'd like to stop by and have a coffee, please do so. Thank you.
Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Opposed?